Okay, let me say a word, if I may, about levels versus trends in industry analysis. It's going to turn out that high-profit industries are going to tend to revert toward the mean. You know what I mean by that from your study of economics. What I mean is that if you've got a very high-profit industry, characterized such as I have here by low buyer power, low supplier power, and so on, I've written up here the pharmaceutical industry here. What's going to happen is that over time, each of the constituents to the industry is going to want to get a better deal. So for example, in pharma, we have buyer power increasing. I mentioned managed care before. You know, you've got insurance companies that constitute the buyers that are now seeking to employ doctors that will prescribe off a formulary that's aligned with both the provision of good patient care and that's designed to keep the cost of the medicine reasonable. You know, so you know, this is a structural change that's designed to increase buyer power. Similarly, in the pharmaceutical industry, you've got these chemists and biotechnology spin-outs that represent an increasing trend towards supplier power. You've got biotech firms compensating scientists for actually pursuing their interests. You know, you've got these legions of stories about scientists that are now working for biotech firms that had once worked in big pharma that were tired of their pet projects that they thought were very important for patient health, tired of those projects getting canceled. So they move out into a biotech firm, you know, because they're committed to purpose. They really want to develop these drugs. In the pharmaceutical industry, substitutes have been relatively low. Over-the-counter and surgical remedies are now increasing, but even more importantly would be prevention of illness, holistic health. You know, what's a substitute for taking Lipitor when you're you know, in your 40s in order to avoid having a heart attack? Well, it's, you know, become a vegetarian, reduce your stress levels, and so on. So these threats of substitution are increasing. Rivalry in pharmaceutical industry is also increasing. You've got the different companies moving into other lines of drugs that they haven't been in before, a lot of consolidation in the business with pharma companies merging in order to be able to cover full lines. And then the threat of entry in pharma is increasing here with a lot of companies no longer seeking to enter through blockbuster approaches that emphasize new blockbuster drugs, but rather increasing because of companies getting in to provide generics here. It's still an incredibly profitable business. Pharmaceuticals is still an attractive industry today with a return on assets estimated at about 10% compared to the economic average of 4%. See, what's happening here is that profits are drawing a crowd. You've got a high profit industry, and so the trend is for the five forces to be increasing. In order to prevent yourself from getting confused between levels and trends in your five forces analysis, be rigorous about looking historically at what's driven the industry average profits to be high in this instance, right? We're looking at why we are where we are, how we got to where we are, not what's going to happen in the future. The goal here is to really set down a detailed understanding of the five forces so that you've grounded a foundation for understanding what might happen in the future that's well informed. And that's, of course, where we're going to turn in our next lecture.